Greetings, everyone. September is National Sickle Cell Awareness Month, which Congress has designated to help focus attention on the need for research and treatment of sickle cell disease. This year's theme is Sickle Cell Matters. My name is Sana Joseph Smith, and I will be serving as your moderator for this evening's discussion. I'm a member of the Sickle Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated and the Social Action Committee. On behalf of Ms. Atasha Randolph, our Community Service Chair, and our Chapter President, Petra Victor, we welcome you to this evening's Roundtable discussion. Joining me today, we have Ms. Jermaine Powell, and she is the President of the Virgin Islands Sickle Cell Parent Group. We also have Ms. Valda Jeffers. She is a parent of a child with sickle cell disease. And we also have Ms. Charlene Titus Menders, and she is actually a person who is living with sickle cell disease. Welcome, ladies. Thank you for joining us for this discussion. We are looking forward to having a really informative exchange today, and I know that our listening audience and viewing audience will really enjoy our discussion. So first of all, you guys might be thinking, what on earth is sickle cell disease to begin with? Because most of us did not hear of it until it actually impacted us directly. And sickle cell happens when a person inherits 2 mutations in the hemoglobin genes, and 1 from each parent, leading to a faulty hemoglobin protein called hemoglobin S. And that's hence where the sickle cell anemia name comes from. And although it's a rare disease, our territory has not escaped its grasp. In fact, on average, we experience a birth about once every other year of a child being born with the disease. However, we have at least 19 to 30 persons being born with the trait. And we'll get into the difference between actually having the trait and having the disease throughout our conversation, but it's important for you to note the difference. At this time, I'd like to turn to you, Ms. Powell, and give you the opportunity to really introduce yourself and the viewing audience and tell us a little bit about the mission of the Sickle Cell Parent Group.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Jermaine Powell, and I'm the president of the Virgin Islands Sickle Cell Parent Support Group. And our mission is sticking with the mission of the National Sickle Cell Association of America is to advocate, and that's what we do the most, advocate for and enhance our membership's ability to improve the quality of health, life, and service for individuals, families, and communities affected by sickle cell disease and related conditions, while also helping promote a cure for sickle cell.
I'm sure that support is much needed,
yes,
because we'll hear about the different stories, but sometimes it can definitely be a challenge.
Oh, of course, yes.
All right, and for you, Ms. Jeffers, you are representing the parents, and I know that Ms. Powell, you are a parent as well.
Yes.
All right, so you are coming from a place of experience.
Yes, I am. I also have a daughter that has sickle cell disease, and she's 31 years old.
Awesome, awesome. All right, Ms. Powell, thank you so much for being here today. Will you introduce yourself and just share with us your experience of being a parent with sickle cell disease? How did you find out?
Good afternoon, Ms. Jeffers. I'm the mother of a son who has sickle cell. He's 21 years old. I found out when he was like 3 years old, when they called me and told me that he had the sickness. I was very devastated, but by the help of God, I made it through, and I thank all my supporters, especially the Sickle Cell Parent Support Group, which I met 13 years ago, and I thank them for all their support and all the help they have given to me.
Did you ask for that test when your son was tested at 3, or why did they take the test?
Well, I didn't know about it. The only thing they told me that I had low blood, and that was it. And then out of the blue, I hear about sickle cell. He has sickle cell, and it was the way they revealed it to me. It was devastating.
Okay.
And with the support of my family, I thank them, because if you do not have any support, you will break. And I just thank God, because if it wasn't for God, I don't know where would I be.
Definitely. And Miss Charlene Titus Menders, You are representing those that are living with the trait. Can you share with us the first time you recall being told that you actually have sickle cell?
I was 8 years old.
Okay.
I would normally go to the beach on weekends, and every time I go to the beach and I would come home, I would be in excruciating pain in my joints. And I was at the hospital, maybe this was probably my third or fourth time there, and the doctors came in and they told my mom, it seems like I have sickle cell. I have the trait. And my mom, young mother, was like, okay. And I did, growing up, I was 8 years old. Growing up, I continued to have pain crises, and into my high school years, I would be in and out of the hospital. When I got to college, I was in Miami and I had a bad crisis. I was taken to the hospital by my college roommates, and I was 19 years old at that time. And they told me, who told you you had the trait? You don't have the trait. After they ran tests, they came back and said, you have the sickle cell disease.
Okay.
So hence, I'm like, everyone that has a trait do not have such pain and be in and out of the hospital as I did. So it was, when I called my mom and I said, the doctors say I have the disease. And we just went from there.
Can you share with us, when you say that you have an episode, what does that, and I know it might be different times, but can you share, what does that feel like? What do you experience when you're, having some of these effects, an episode, and being impacted by the disease?
My episodes would normally be in my joints.
Okay.
It would be joint pain. And when I was young, I just would remember coming from the beach and my arm, and my mom would be like, did you fall? Did you play too rough in the water? And as time passed, I would feel it, the pain throughout my back and so forth. And some episodes are worse than others, where the pain is just unbearable. I remember being in the hospital and just having a pain med pump, and I just have to hit it when I feel the pain. And sometimes you have that machine and they have like 3-hour increments, and I would cry and be like, please give me some more, because the pain would be so bad after the 3 hours that I would need to press that. So I remember days in the hospital going through those type of experiences.
Definitely. I can't even imagine as a parent, as a person going through it, and then even more as a parent. Now, when your children get a flu or something, it's like, oh goodness, you're trying to figure it out. But I can't imagine watching, my child go through this. As a parent, how has it impacted your day-to-day life? Like, what are some changes, what are some things that you've had to do in order to be able to support, your child that might be experiencing these episodes?
Okay, well, as a parent, when he got his first stroke at 10.
You said he had a stroke at 10?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Because, they never educated us on sickle cell. So we as Long Island parents, we know when the baby born, you bring them for their first bath and we see and give them vitamins. But I did not know the vitamins are supposed to have iron. So the vitamins had iron, and the doctors never tell you that. And the iron gave him an overload, too much iron in the blood.
Okay.
And it gave him this first stroke. I did some research on it, and I saw, because I don't want to bash anybody.
No, we'll just stay with the facts.
Okay.
You didn't get the correct information.
Right, I didn't get the correct information, and then the doctors did not know what they was doing, sorry. And they would send him home, and I have to go back the same night with him, and then after his stroke, I had to be going to Puerto Rico every month with him so he could get transfusion. But thank God for the job I had. They went into my consideration, and I still held on to it until COVID, and then I got another one. And last year, I went to the hospital. He wasn't feeling well, and they gave him too much of the Motrin, and it shut down his entire body.
Oh, no.
I had to fly him out of Juan Louis, and he's still up in the States recuperating.
Oh, wow. Yes, please, definitely.
I want to add that my story is quite different from theirs in terms of they found out earlier in at the stage, whereas my daughter found out to the newborn screening. Okay. So in the newborn screening, I think it came out in 1986. And then after that, so I have a daughter that's older, and she came out with a trait. So when you have a trait, they don't tell you have a trait.
Okay.
But and then I have a second daughter 5 years after, and then she came up with the disease. So I got this phone call from the newborn screening clinic, and they said, your daughter tested positive for sickle cell disease. Now, at that time, since they don't tell you about the trait, I knew nothing about sickle cell. So, of course, I put on the phone, and I didn't cry. I bawled, okay? Because when you hear blood disorder, they say, your child tests positive for blood disorder. That's how you heard a blood disorder. So I like, okay, after I catch myself, I said, okay, what to do? So they came and they said, okay, come to the clinic and get the information. So I went to the clinic, and to myself, I said, they don't know what they're talking about. So I packed up my 2 children, and I went to Howard University, and I got more information. And then I came back and apologized because it was about the same kind of information, you know. So I had to come back and apologize. Like, okay, now I understand what sickle cell is, because this was all new to me. Right. And of course, your mate or your husband, they don't tell you anything, or they feel like it's your fault. But then come to find out, I found out that my husband's family also had sickle cell, and that's where I learned about it. So I was able, from the time my daughter was born, to start advocating. So that's how I got into being the president for the Sickle Cell Parent Support Group, because she has put me in this position, whereas I start advocating for other families and other members in the community that has sickle cell disease.
Yes.
I wish that you were there when I grew up, because I'm a 70s baby.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, the numerous visits to Charles Howard, yes. I don't even know if they tested me early on then, because it wasn't until I was 8. Mm-hmm. And at that point, my mom had no clue what that was. Yeah. And she just prayed the pain away, and rubbed it and prayed.
And so she gave bush tea too, because that's a cure in our household for everything, right? The bush tea.
So if your group was around, I'm sure, because I had no clue. I just was living with a disease, and we really didn't know, you know.
And that's the point of us having this discussion today too, because especially with there only being one baby every other year or so that actually is born with the disease, it makes it seem like it's just so far-fetched and so far away. But if you think about it, when my husband and I got married, we didn't get tested for it. We would never know. And so if you have all these people with traits that are, you know, in our community, and at some point, you know, we hook up and we're like, let's do this, and we don't know that if we decide to have a family, that we could really be impacted by having a child. And I'm hoping that our audience understands that the responsibility starts before you even think about, you know, having a family. You need to think about know your status.
Exactly.
so that you can go from there. So when did you start the organization? What year was that?
Same year as I got back from Howard University.
Oh, 1980 something?
1991.
1991.
Yes.
Okay.
So as I got back from Howard University, at that time, Albert Sheen and some other Miss Lindquist, they started a foundation.
Okay.
So they needed someone to run a support group.
Okay.
So through everything that went on, life went on, the foundation, dissolved, and then the support group remained.
Okay.
So we were able to change it from the Sickle Cell Parent Support Foundation to just Parent Support Group. So we continued since then, from 1991. So I've been advocating and telling everybody, bringing sickle cell awareness to the community, because when people hear about sickle cell, they think, oh, blood disorder. Or even some people that have sickle cell, they don't want nobody to know because it is a blood disorder. Right. So if you bring sickle cell awareness to the community so that they could empathize and sympathize about what the sickler goes through, the warriors, right. I call them the warriors, what the warriors go through, then they will more, be successful to it. In terms of teachers dealing with students in their classroom.
I was just about to go there, yes.
So if a teacher know how to deal with the child in the classroom, if your cousin, because I have the same experience with my daughter, she didn't have this episode, no sickle cell episode. We were wondering if she really had sickle cell because she only started at 5. We went to the beach the same way, and as she came out of the water, her hands were stuck like this. We're like, what's the matter with you? And she crying. We said, what's the matter with you? And she said, oh, we're in pain. I'm in pain. My elbows hurt. And her elbows stuck like that for 3 weeks. We had to take her straight to the hospital. And I'm still not knowing, what's the complication with sickle cell. I tried to bribe her and I said, I hope I get better. Your birthday coming up and I bought you a bike and I wanted to come.
The bike wasn't enough.
So the pain, her hands were just stuck like this because the same thing that you were saying, the pain was in her joints. So, it's just advocate. We just have to advocate.
Going back to support, and I'm going to take this to Charlene first and then go over to you. When you're having your episode, or maybe it's not a full-on episode, what can those that are around you do to support you? Like what is helpful, I can't imagine watching somebody, in that amount of pain. Like what would it take to be, a supporter and to just be there for you when you're going through that?
Prayer. I just remember my mom praying and rubbing me, praying and rubbing and just trying to soothe it away. Yeah.
And even now as an adult? As an adult,
same thing. My husband, when he sees as an adult, I have not had an episode, a pain crisis episode for about 10 years because I had blood transfusion. Okay. It's really not a blood transfusion. It's like they took my old blood out and replaced it, and that gives me lesser episodes.
So there's some treatment
so it's like
options
a blood exchange
out there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I had a stroke in 2022. And I got my last exchange then.
Okay.
And even so, when I got that stroke and I was in Miami at Jackson Hospital, they told me when they did a brain CT scan and I was bleeding in the brain, hence the stroke, they said, you have other dry blood within your brain. Have you had a stroke before? And the hematologist said, it seemed like you had a number of strokes when you were a child.
Oh, wow.
Because sickle cell patients they call them invisible strokes.
Okay.
So I could have had a stroke and my mom wouldn't have known and I wouldn't have known.
And you don't know how to articulate it as a child.
Right. Right. So
thank you for sharing that. It's great to hear that there have been some advances in the medical field where you can at least get some, reprieve for some time. I'll pass the question over to you. As a parent, what's helpful? What's supportive to you? What do you need? Because you're now being supportive to your son who is in an active crisis right now. what can those around you do to support you as you navigate?
Well, right now it's prayers. Hope. That's all. Prayers and hope.
Are there any resources, information, any treatments, like as far as, who gives you your information to see what options there are out there to treat your son?
Well, the doctors in Florida, he's at Kindred in a rehab, and he's taking treatment because he had part of his skull taken away.
Okay.
So they could drain out the blood. And I went in so they could wean him off the vent.
Okay.
But financially, I do not have it, and the MEP won't cover it. So I just praying and hoping that something will be done and take it from there.
Are there any resources from the national organizations that might be able to help and support? Do you know of any?
The only way we could is by applying for grants. So we have to look into what grant they have for sickle cell patients where we could assist with them. So when she came with the story that she probably need funds for her son, we're going to look into see if we could get a grant and ask the community for their assistance in donations and different stuff.
Yeah, it seems.
I have a question for you. I don't know
sure.
if you can answer it.
I mean, we can try.
I know there is funding for the sickle cell patients, but we as a group, we're not getting the funding, knowing where the funding's going, so we want to know where our funding's for the.
Where are you said there's funds somewhere?
Yes, because they told us every year they put in fundings in the treasury for the sickle cell patients.
So I definitely can't answer that because I don't work in the medical field, but what we can do, and especially as part of our organization, St. Croix Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, we have been supporters and we've actually raised funds for the organization. Mm-hmm. And so we may have some members that can reach out and see if there are any national organizations that are putting, funds somewhere. I don't know personally of any, but the great thing about having connections and an organization that we have is that there's always somebody somewhere.
Right.
And so it will be a really great opportunity for us after we get offline to look into that and see what we can do. That's a great segue. How we got into it is about 30 years ago, one of our members, was diagnosed and she had some episodes of sickle cell. And so as a chapter, a very small chapter group of women, they raised funds, they did fundraisers, and we have a special, separate, it's a small account, but it's one. So anytime the association has any events, we support it. We try to bring awareness to it because it's important that your story, and you're one of many, right, gets heard. It's important that we realize that although the numbers might not be massive, one is enough. Charlene is enough. Yes. Your son is enough for us to act and support, in that manner. So I just really extend my appreciation for you guys, being here and sharing, the topics today. And my last question, as we, start to kind of wrap up the conversation a little bit, would be your advice. The three of you have had very different experiences from different lens, and you're currently in a different situation. What advice would you give someone in your shoes? I'm going to start with Charlene, and then we'll work our way this way. What would you tell, and I'm going to push Charlene business all out there. You are a successful business owner. She's a mom. She's a wife. What you said? She's a warrior. That's what we're calling them. And so, I'm sitting here feeling all selfish because it's a struggle as a person who is not, living and surviving with a disease like this. So what advice would you give knowing that you've been able to navigate, accomplish, and you're still pushing? What are you telling the next person to encourage them to keep pushing?
Stand on feet.
Okay.
stand on faith and keep praying and pushing. My mom was my advocate to keep pushing.
Nice.
And some people see me day by day, and I try to live my life to the fullest because God favored me, that I am 51 years old.
Stop it. Not the whole 51.
Sickle cell.
Looking like 31,
survivor.
all right.
So I just say God favored me to continue to push through. And every time I get news, and it's always something different with this disease that you learn. I was like 21 years old driving on US 1 in Miami. That's where I went to college. And I blinked my eye and I couldn't see in front of me. It was a big blur.
Oh my.
And they're telling me when I get to where I pulled on the side, I was like, someone needs to come help me. When I finally got to the doctor, they're telling me you have sickle cell retinopathy.
Oh.
The bleeding is in the back of your eye and it's blurring your vision. Every aspect on this journey of sickle cell, it was just something new, something different. And I just pushed through, I've had 4 different laser surgeries just to be able to see.
Wow.
And they said, if that happens again, there's nowhere area where they can do laser for me. So by the grace of God and his favor, I say pray and just push through. So that's my
Awesome.
story.
Thank you so much for sharing. And what advice would you give for, the parents that might be watching, the caretakers, the family members who, have someone that they love that's currently in crisis, currently trying to navigate? What would you say to them?
Okay, always stay hydrated. And as Miss Shannon said, prayers. Prayers beats everything. The doctor don't have the final say, it's God. Because I can attest to it when last year the doctor said my son will only have 3 days to live.
Oh, wow.
And I tell them they did not give him life, it's God. And I speak life over my son.
Okay.
And up till today, thank you, Jesus, he is still alive. Yes, he's still fighting, but he's alive. And he's a warrior, he's a fighter, and he's determined to get back on his feet. And I thank for all the support, my friends, my family, my co-workers, the Sickle Cell Parent Support Group, for everything. And just pray. Just pray. Yes, we are humans, we will fall, but God is good. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing today. And I know you're coming with dual roles, as a family that might be experiencing and supporting, someone with sickle cell. Can you share some of the resources? What advice would you tell them as far as like looking for it and just trying to find answers to the different challenges that may arise?
Yes, the advice I will give, first of all, when you find out that your child has a chronic illness, a chronic disease, such as sickle cell or any other chronic illness, the first thing you need to do is to educate yourself. Knowledge is power. Educate yourself, and as your child grew older, educate them also. Let them know exactly what the disease is about and what it entails. Don't hide anything, because as they grow into whatever, they will have this crisis and everything. And next thing I want to tell you is don't go through this alone. Get with family, get with as much support, join a support group, get with, let your family know exactly what chronic illness is. Are we talking about sickle cell right now? So let your family know about the sickle cell disease and what it entails. I know some people want to keep it a secret because it's a blood disorder, but share. Bring the awareness out into the community, bring the awareness out to the family members and your friends so that they could know exactly how to deal with it. Okay.
I think that's a great point for us to start to wrap up on. We have to bring awareness to this. in order for us to get more support. If we stay quiet, then no one knows to help. No one knows we need the research. And I think that's why, proclaiming September as Sickle Cell Month, and I believe June 19 was actually World Sickle Cell Day itself. These things are important, not just to have it on a piece of paper, but for us to create the dialogue, to share the message, and to let people understand that you don't have to live in scrutiny. You don't have to hide. We have to let it be known, because this is a disease that can be treated. It's a disease that you can live through. It's a disease that is ever changing. So if as an individual it's changing, the doctors can't keep up with that necessarily. So the best way to do that is to share the information so we can do our best to treat it. We also want to make sure that we emphasize that the parent group is active. Can you share the phone number where they can reach out?
To get in touch with us is our Virgin Islands Sickle Cell Parent Support Group, and our P.O. Box number is P.O. Box 4389, Kings Hill 00823. A telephone number in case you want to get in touch with us is 340-277-3579. Again, it's 340-277-3579. We are here for, we accept donations, your contributions. And if you just need to talk about sickle cell, or you have someone that has sickle cell, reach out to us and we will give you all the information that you need, and consultation will be your counselor, will be there for you for support. So please don't go through this alone.
All right. Thank you so much. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for being brave enough to share all of your stories and being vulnerable. I know sometimes it's a little challenging to put it out there, but I sincerely appreciate it. And I just want you all to know that you're definitely helping our community. And if you didn't share your stories, we wouldn't be able to help the next person. On behalf of the St. Croix Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, we just want to extend our gratitude to everyone who's helped us to produce this show. Of course, Government Access Channel. Our gentlemen are always awesome in making sure that we have an opportunity to get the community educated. We also want to say thank you on behalf of our president, Ms. Petra Victor, and again, the community service chair, Ms. Natasha Randolph. Be safe, everyone, and we'll see you next time.